So here we go. Welcome to this webinar about how to stick to learning German, which is a very important topic for those that might have already realized that this is not a sprint, but rather a marathon. And the marathon doesn't run itself. It requires quite some preparation and practice. So let me share my wisdom with you that I've gathered over the last 30 years. And here is the schedule for today. If I'm fast, it's half an hour, but I might take a breath in between, so 40 minutes, and then we have 20 to 30 minutes Q&A. I'm also not bound to the hour. We can also talk longer, so no stress. Just to give you an idea why this topic matters, we need to answer this question: how long it actually takes to learn German. By the way, should you have any questions during the presentation, just type them somewhere on your computer and collect them for later, because I will not see your comments right now. And I will then respond to them. Yeah. So you can make a guess. How long do you think it takes to learn German? And by learning German, I mean until you feel comfortable in it. So just give you 10 seconds to just see what you think the answer is to this. So here's what I found. And just for those that don't know me yet, I've been teaching German since roughly 20 years, a bit more. And I've been learning languages since I'm 20 years old or 18 years old. So what I found here is pretty much aligned with my experience. So the FSI, or German language schools, have determined that until level B2, for some people C1, which is the level I've been talking about, you need to invest 750 to 900 hours of lifetime. 750 is rather on the optimistic end, because the FSI is the Foreign Services Institute of the US, so they train highly skilled, highly educated diplomats and people in diplomatic services. And you might not belong to that kind of intellectual elite. Yeah? Don't worry, that doesn't mean you're stupid. But these are really highly trained people, and if you haven't received that training, you're likely on the higher end of 900 hours. And it's possible to get to C1 in 900 hours, but B2 is the level you are actually aiming for. And in intensive classes, students sit 3 hours a day, and theoretically they invest another 90 minutes of homework, but they have the weekends off, and for them it takes roughly a year. Yeah, it's a rough estimate, so don't worry about it. And some people of you, or some of you, simply don't have 3 hours a day. They have other obligations to take care of. Yeah, maybe you have to earn money or take care of someone. Let's say you have 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, and a very simply calculation gives 3 years as a result. But that's really only if things go really smoothly, if you are a continuous, reliable learner, which most learners are not. And again, this is not a criticism, this is just life and being a human. And it's more likely that you will spend actually 5 years until you feel comfortable with your learning, with your German language skills. Yeah. And as you can see, that's quite a distance to cross, and you will simply face certain challenges on the way, which we will take a look at. Now, there might be some smart learners that say, oh, come on, 900 hours, let's do the math. I invest 6 hours a day. I get it done in 6 months. Or let's say I really push through 12 hours a day, 3 months. Weekends for people that are lazy. So if I push it, I could get to that level in 2 months. Well, unfortunately, it's not that easy, because your learning process is anything but linear. Yeah, there is no human being that has such a learning curve. This is what we wish for. It rather looks like this. Yeah, it's a lot of back and forth and circling, and this is the optimistic curve. Very often it goes maybe further back or lower, and then yeah, it takes longer. So the learning process is one that is very volatile, to say the least. But there's a bit of hope for anyone with the right approach, yeah, and a little bit of support. You can actually get there with some enjoyment as well. You know, there's people that run a marathon are not forced to do so, right? So hopefully you're not forced to learn German. Yeah. By the way, Kay, if there's any issue, write me a WhatsApp, please. Yeah. So while you run this marathon of learning German, and even if it's only a year is a long time. No? Thank you. You might face a couple of problems. One problem is that maybe at one point there is a lack of progress, or you wish it would go faster. You might encounter frustration over anything, basically. It might be an exercise you don't get, a grammar lesson that you struggle with. It could be frustration in another area of your life, which of course then influences your German learning process. You might feel overwhelmed by the amount of information, which is absolutely natural because it is overwhelming. Or you feel bored because you're maybe in the wrong level, or you have repeated a class again, even though you better shouldn't have. You might at one point feel a lack of motivation and not really know how to tackle that because you don't know where it comes from. And it's motivation is a tricky topic. I'll talk about it a bit later. And all these things might also interact with each other. So sometimes the lack of progress might lead to frustration, might lead to lack of motivation, and then your progress suffers more and more. So it's time, or it's best to interrupt this cycle as soon as possible. Here's another thing for many, many learners is the budget, because I get plenty of emails that ask for a discount. You have to consider that normally you pay $250 per month in a language school, in the cheapest language school in Germany, which is the Volkshochschule, and there's other that are as cheap. But even in India, you pay $100 a month, and so you end up with $200 for a month, and it takes 2 months for a level. So you do the math, you actually end up with $3,000 a year if you learn in a language school or in a comparable institution. And that language school could be virtual, like online or offline. And if you count the 750 hours, thinking positively here, and if you only made $10 minimum wage, you would still miss out on $7,500 missed income. So keep this in mind. Language learning is a costly hobby, yeah? Real English learning. And if you stretch it over 5 years, you will not take intensive classes for that whole time. So let's say it's 6K. I'm not sure what you do with 6K. Otherwise, I would invest it in language learning because it's a good investment, right? Another problem that everyone has to struggle with is life. Yeah, life has its challenges, and it really doesn't care what your plans are. It sometimes just throws things at you that require our immediate and ongoing attention. So let's take a look at that later. There's a good workaround for that. Yeah? And I'm not talking of suicide here. So let's take a look at the causes for such problems. What causes all this? And I will focus on the process of language learning, not on life issues. So often there is bad or no preparation. Bad here means not morally, but simply not done in a proper way, or no way at all. So the question is, have you ever prepared for your language learning? Or did you just say, I want to learn German, and I just start with something that comes my way, right? So what do I mean by preparation? So someone is thinking about this image. So you see this image, right? It's licking an ice pole. So I hope you never had that experience yourself. I think I did this once when I was a kid. It's very representative for this situation. So if you have no goal, let me get back to that. If you have no goal, that means a goal is not, I want to learn German, or I want to be fluent in German. A goal is also not, I want to speak to my grandmother in German. That's too unspecific. You need a specific goal. And a specific goal, for example, could be, I want to have a 10-minute conversation with my grandmother, of course in German, about soccer by the 15th of October 2023. That would be a very specific goal. And there is ways to actually work through the process of goal setting. We have a course for this even. I'll get to that also in the end. And you need a plan, or actually you don't need a plan, but it's very helpful because a plan tells you, am I on track or am I deriving from my goal? That's fine. You can adjust your goal as you go, but a plan is really, really helpful in roughly knowing where you are. If you are in a city and you don't know where you are, it's very difficult to find the goal, yeah, or find your home unless you're familiar with the city. Due diligence is a business term, but it simply means, have you done your homework and checked the material or the institution or the online course out? Like, how do you know it's good for your needs? And you can do this all the time. So once you are in a course, you can always evaluate, is this the right course for me? Or do I get my money's worth? And if not, why do I think it's this way? And so on and so on. So there is a couple of things you need to do, because you don't know by default what is a good course. Sometimes you feel it, yeah, but after a time it might turn out that maybe you need to change your course or your method. Not everyone does that. It's very difficult to find and judge good material. There's plenty of bad methods out there, unfortunately. I've been doing this for many, many years, and my deepest interest was finding methods that help students to learn better. Unfortunately, let's say 90% to be nice of the methods are just rubbish. And if you're lucky, just outdated. So one of the most outdated and most horrible methods is the German-only approach. It's called the monolingual approach. And the misunderstanding is that if I only speak and hear German in the classroom, I will learn faster. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's the worst approach ever. And it has no benefits for the student, at least not before you reach B2 level. There, it doesn't harm that much. But it has mainly benefits for the school, because they can put any student, no matter where they come from, what language they originally speak, into one classroom, and they all feel equally stupid. So that's a benefit. And the teachers don't have to speak any other language than German, so that's economically, it's very beneficial, because as a school, I'm more flexible to hire people, as long as they're willing to stand in the classroom and work with this horrible method. Really horrible method. That's not only my opinion and experience, it's also a scientific proven fact. If you need sources, let me know. Classroom teaching is a method that is so outdated. We are not in the 20th century anymore. We have Zoom, we have other platforms through which we can work. Classrooms are time intensive, they are inflexible. They also put you together with 20, 30 other people. If you're lucky, less. But that also means that you might run behind the class if the speed of the teacher is too fast, or you might just be bored because you have to wait for your fellow students that are not as fast with learning German. Many other downsides of a classroom. It causes inhibition in shyer, more introvert learners, because it's really something to ask a question in front of 10 to 30 other people. It's something you can learn, but still, why expose yourself to that? Some methods still work with vocabulary or grammar lists and tables. These lists have a function in the sense of giving you an overview what is out there. That's fine. But there's no need to learn anything of that by heart, because learning a list by heart will make you good at reciting lists. The same with tables. It's a satisfying thing to do, but it's not really beneficial for your German learning. A bad structure or non-existing structure. Many people that study on their own, they have to figure out their own structure, and it might be less than ideal if you're not a professional learner or specifically language learner. So textbooks often provide a very basic structure, but they are usually created for group classes, and at least in Germany, most textbooks are German only, which brings us again to the bad method above. And textbooks are also very linear. They don't provide any feedback. That's the other problem with textbooks. And that structure would be having a class, whether online or offline, at a fixed time and place, because you just might not feel well at that time. You might just also learn better in the evenings or in the afternoons, or your life simply requires that you are available at a certain specific time. So if I have a fixed time and a fixed place, I have to organize my life around the German classes instead of the other way around, which is more likely to bring you to the end of your goal. Yeah, of course, if you're a young person and student, you're used to this kind of stuff because you've been going to school where they told you where to be at what time. But for adults, this is an approach that is simply not recommended anymore. And going to a place in Berlin takes at least half an hour one way. So it's an hour wasted in traffic, which you might listen to some German, but that's not really making up for the wasted time. And there's plenty of bad support or no support, so you always have questions. This is the one thing students always come up with. So I have a question. So in a classroom, you will not have enough space to ask your questions. And if you're lucky, the teacher at least speaks English and allows you to ask it in English. But if you have to ask a question in German and you are A1 or A2, come on, that's just ridiculous. So you need a place to ask questions, and ideally you get instant feedback to your performance. So if you do group exercises or partner exercises with a partner in class or online or offline, the partner doesn't speak German either, so they cannot really correct you properly. And proper feedback is mainly given by a teacher, or in our case by a computer program, which does an excellent job if designed well. Now, the one thing that sometimes is a bit out of our control is bad timing. So sometimes you start something and then something happens. You become pregnant or you become a father. It's also possibly a problem for men. You have a new job that's very demanding. They require over hours. There's simply not enough space and time for learning German, or you break a leg or you feel sick, get COVID, whatever. All these things are out of your influence, I would say, and very often people then kind of feel guilty that they cannot put in enough time to study German. But I'll let you know what you can do about this. But here's one of the most important causes of problems, and that is a bad mindset. And again, all this is not morally problematic. It's just something that has an effect on your learning and on your persistence. So a bad mindset is caused by expectations, and mainly expectations that are not in touch with reality. So if you think after doing B1 I can have a fluent conversation with my friends and my family, that's a bad expectation because it's absolutely not happening. And if you have the expectation that you should be at a certain point at a certain time, and reality tells you again and again it's not, you might start blaming yourself, and then the vicious cycle starts again, which costs you energy and you pay with loss of motivation. And often a bad expectation, or like a bad mindset, is caused by misinformation. And by misinformation, I also mean your education in the past. So you learned a language in school, right? You have a certain experience. Maybe you even were good at it. But learning languages at school has a different purpose. It's an academic process. You might be lucky and have gone to a more flexible school, one that actually cares about you creating a relationship with the language. But the techniques you learned there might not be suitable for adult language learning. And whatever you hear there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. Some people promise you can be fluent in 3 months. That might be true for 1% of the population if they put in a lot of work, but for the rest of us, that's simply not correct. Now, what can you do against these, or to cure these? So what's a cure for bad preparation? And again, these are really a rough outline. There is a lot more to all of this, but let's focus on a couple of core issues and solutions. So ideally you have a simple system. A system helps you to be structured, to know what to do next, and to not worry about where to find the next step or what material to use now. It needs to be simple enough for you to feel familiar with it after a short time. And it needs to be something that is focused on your needs and not on the needs of the school. As I said, with the German-only approach, it's only focused on the benefits for the school, but not on the students' benefits at all. And I'm not blaming schools for doing that, because that's what they have to do, and they are possibly not even aware of this, because I haven't thought about this for many, many years while I was working in that system. But over time, I actually stepped out of this whole thing and looked at it very analytically, and this is my conclusion of this. Yeah. So that is, for example, if you have a system, it saves you a lot of time organizing your material. Bad methods, so this German-only approach can be cured by explaining everything that you need to understand crystal clearly in simple English. No? Because then you know, and then you practice in German, obviously. So you practice in German, but understanding happens in a language you are familiar with. Yeah, it makes no sense to do this in a language you're not good with, because then you will have gaps, you will feel insecure, and frustration is bound to come. You need efficient tools and techniques. Textbook, for example, is not it's not really efficient. We have many, many online tools nowadays available that actually help you look at how correct you speak and how correct you write. It helps you with reading and listening. You don't have to have a cassette player anymore. Hopefully you have this on your mobile. So anything that seems a bit old-fashioned is very likely old-fashioned. You don't need to learn vocabulary lists. Yeah, these are not efficient tools. You don't have to learn random vocabulary. Yeah, it all needs to be a little bit in context. All these things can be considered. There's plenty of those, and you will see what works after working with them for a while. Check. So a bad structure is ideally fixed by having a step-by-step approach, and that step-by-step approach can be adapted to your learning speed. That's important as well, because otherwise you get bored. Yeah, you don't want to take every step, maybe every other step. I don't recommend skipping anything when you, for example, work with our system, but you can still adjust the speed, and I help you by with doing that. Yeah, when you reach out to me and say, hey, I'm a bit bored, I need a little bit more pep, I'm happy to make things more difficult for you all the time. Yeah, but initially this helps you to just focus on the learning and not on the organization. If you can avoid live tutors is the same as having to be at a fixed place at a fixed time. You don't need live tutors. You need an internet connection, of course, but what do you need a live tutor for? Things that can be explained, you can make a video of and watch them whenever you please and whenever you feel good. And if you have 10 to 20 other people in class, the tutor only has 1/10 or 1/30 of her attention for you, and you calculate that. So 1/10 of 3 hours is 18 minutes, but you pay for 3 hours. So why would you do that? And it's not even that. I think I calculated once, you have 10 minutes of attention from this tutor in a classroom. And for that you pay the whole thing. You pay actually for listening to other people's bad German. And they might make mistakes and you might learn from those mistakes, but it's unlikely that you always learn something that is relevant to you. Yeah. And a tutor I recommend for 2 things. There might be other reasons to do so. One reason is to prepare for an oral exam. You don't need to, but for many people it's very, very helpful. And maybe for a job interview in German, but then they should also have certain knowledge about this process. And that's something I would definitely recommend, to invest some money in that. Yeah. Some of you might just want to have someone they feel accountable towards and hire one once a week for an hour to just have certain questions answered and just say, hey, I did this, I did that, some feedback. So that's a different thing. That's rather coaching than it is teaching. But for teaching German and doing it more than this one time a week, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't invest the money. Here's another secret. There's only very few tutors that are actually worth the money and the time you invest. And here the same principle, do your due diligence all the time, meaning after a lesson ask, was it worth my money? Was it worth my time? And if not, what was the cost of the problem? And if you cannot fix it, then change the tutor. It's a very time-intensive progress unless you're really, really lucky and find a good one right away. Support means you get feedback, ideally instant, not next week or tomorrow when they correct your homework. Technology allows you to get instant feedback, so why would you do this the old-fashioned way and wait for your teacher to correct your homework? You would like to have an opportunity to find the answer to your questions even at 3 at night if you're a night owl. Yeah, I doubt that your tutor will pick up the phone or respond to your WhatsApp if you send them a message in the middle of the night. So yeah, at Smarter German I offer Q&As. They're free for everyone, whether you are working with us or not. Q&A allows students to connect to me, to a teacher, to a person, because online learning can be some very disconnected or feel disconnected at times. There's no humans involved. So the Q&A is something like this. So we meet, we say hello, I relate to you. I personally deeply enjoy them because I also prefer to have contact to those that work with my course. So this is something you will enjoy. Yeah, and it's more of a motivation. It's not speaking practice. For that we have a different platform. So what to do for bad timing if you are pregnant or become a father, get ill. Well, I'm 50 years old, looking back and talking to many people with many different ailments. I can only tell you it will be okay, and it's totally okay to take a break. Yeah, just take your time because there's nothing you can do. So that doesn't mean you don't have to learn German, or there's no way that you can learn German. You can learn German, but just your expectations need to adjust. If you have a baby, there is absolutely no way you're going to sit there 3 hours undisturbed unless you're so extremely organized. But then you wouldn't have the problem to begin with. Yeah, and certain illnesses simply don't allow you to learn. Then you wish you could, but I think you could let go of that wish and just take care of what needs your immediate attention first. And once there's a little space for German again, you just come back. And with an online course like ours, that's easy to achieve because you can just continue where you left off. In a classroom, that's it. You have to review, like repeat a level, for example, which costs additional money and is also frustrating. So what to do with a bad mindset? As I said, a reality check is something really useful. And if you need help with that, I'm always there. Yeah, and I try to be gentle because a reality check is something quite rough at times, but I give my best to be straightforward and gentle at the same time. So if your expectations are too high, I'm the first one to ask, what do you expect? Where does it come from? And then tell you what I've seen over the last years. And it helps. Yeah, it might hurt initially to let go of this idea, but it helps in the long run. The community is always helpful when you feel like something's not working as you want, and if you blame yourself maybe for it, just share your experience. Sharing is caring. Many people share your experience, and it's really motivating to get feedback on that, and also that everyone shares their journey, and it's just beautiful. And that is actually the part that works the best in our community. We have an online community for our customers. And these posts always get the most reactions. Beautiful. So let me save you a little bit of time and money. Yeah. Here's things that students usually try to do when they feel they're falling behind or they're lacking motivation. Let's see whether you recognize some of your measures. People think or try to become more disciplined. Oh, if I only had more discipline, I only have to force myself to sit down and do it. I've done a lot of research on that, and I've suffered through this myself, trying to become a better person, a better version of myself, more disciplined. And I can tell you, there's absolutely no way that you will become more disciplined, or there's nothing you can do to become more disciplined. It's a billion-dollar business to tell people how to become more disciplined, and it never works. If you're more disciplined, because you decide to be more disciplined. So it's no technique behind that, it's a decision. And sometimes even that doesn't work. Either you are disciplined or you're not. And I think if you really know why you're doing the things you're doing, or what for you're doing them, discipline is not an issue, or at least not a serious one. Yeah. And what helps, of course, with lack of discipline is a group. So that's the one thing you can do, but there's nothing you can do in the sense of learn or acquire a skill or character trait. But learning in a group, of course, helps with discipline. Having a plan and a goal helps with discipline. So in that sense, you can do more, but don't try to change your character. Try and learn. I suggested before, I wouldn't hire a private tutor. It's a lot of money, and you have to, again, be at a fixed place and time and find someone that actually does the job that you feel good with. Some people are fine with an average tutor, but people that are cheap usually have 8 to 10 clients a day, and they are near a burnout usually. And the more expensive ones really go into the money, right? Often after a short break or longer break, actually rather longer break, people think, oh, I should repeat a level. I don't recommend that. In the very rarest case, I say, yeah, sure, why not? And if it doesn't matter to you, if it's the first time, but if it's the second or third time you repeat a level because you always drop out and come back after 6 months, I would rather first analyze what is the issue and then see whether you really need to repeat a level or whether you can still continue where you left off. Again, easy peasy with smarter German, because your progress is saved normally. And if you fail again and again and you don't change anything in your behavior or in your approach, or you still go to language classes or you still work with Duolingo and you expect different results, then simply there's a quote, right? That's basically a definition of madness. Try different things and see, but of course you need to try them for a certain amount of time to see whether they work. I think a month is a good period, or 3 weeks, to see whether something really makes a difference. Yeah? Which is why we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if in that month you see it works for you, perfect. If not, also fine. Often students say, oh, I'm just too stupid, I'm too old. German is such a language, such a difficult language, and I should do more this, I should be more disciplined. If only. And please don't do that. It's absolutely counterproductive. It doesn't change anything. It's just an excuse basically for not doing the work. Either you do the work or you stop complaining. It's fine. It's not wrong to stop learning German. It's okay. Yeah, and often it's not your fault. I had a talk this morning on the phone, actually yesterday, with a lady who had her B1 exam this morning, and she was blaming herself for not passing the first time, but she was in a course that didn't prepare her for the exam at all. And the statistics were also against her, because she was in an integration course, and the statistics say that 50% taking an integration course actually fail that course after 7 months of intensive study. That's 700 school hours. Yeah, that's level B1. And that's absolutely a sign for a system that doesn't work. It's not a sign for the students being stupid, absolutely not. So it's very likely not your fault, and it's also not your fault if all the points I pointed out in the beginning you didn't do, because you possibly didn't know better, so who's then to blame? Yeah. So what can you do if your motivation is already in the cellar, as we say in German? So if you're already struggling, or if you suffer from all this struggling, so you are at Smarter German. Yeah, so the solution is easy. Start working with Smarter German. What are you waiting for? So here's why this is possibly a good step. There's no risk. So you can try everything for free. The first lesson we have reduced in size, so you can do it quickly, but it shows the main techniques and structure. So once you see the trial is what I like, you will very likely like the rest of the course. You have 30 days to test it after purchasing any course, and a simple email to me suffices to get your money back. Yeah. And if there's really, as I said, in the trial or in the main course, if you struggle with something, I help you get on board. And I don't always do it in the talk, but in the community, I'm always there. I can help you with any issue you encounter, and you just need to reach out to me. And I do so with pleasure, because I want you to benefit from my work. I really love what I'm doing, and I believe it's one of the best approaches to learn German. So if something doesn't work for you, I'd be honored if you granted me some time to chat with you or talk with you to see whether it really is not for you, or whether there's something else going on. Yeah, it's all inclusive. All the materials you need for learning are there. The only thing you would love to add to this is real life material. So watching movies, listening to podcasts, reading books, and all these things you can do as you progress more and more, but those I don't need to provide. But anything required to learn German is already included. I provide a structure that is one of a kind, beautiful, straight to the point, and easy to follow. And you have my utmost support, mine and my team's support. We deliver support via our community, which is the most beneficial way for everyone. Also support that is independent of whether I sleep or not. So it's something you will not find in many other places. And the Q&A, for example, that we have weekly is also a beautiful way to just get supported and feel good. A new thing I announced the first time today, I will offer limited amount of coaching to individuals. I will not just do it for anyone. I require some kind of application. I will charge whatever you can and are willing to pay. We agree on this. It's not a fixed price. As you might have seen, I'm not a big fan of fixed prices because I want to enable anyone, even on a low income, to be available to afford this. I will only do a couple of sessions a week, and you can apply via the homepage. There's a little how can I help in the corner, lower left corner. You just click on it and there's an email where you can apply. And the more effort you put into your application, the more likely I am willing to do that. Yeah. And I do this also to learn. Whenever I talk to a learner, I really learn, and I optimize all my courses based on my experiences. So I'm really thankful for doing this, and that's why I also want to enable people with less economical stability to join in. So I've been talking about what we do all the time. You might have seen already what it does, but this might actually enlighten you a little bit. With us, you can purchase a single level. We have added this possibility today. We thought some people might actually like this again, and we were planning on doing that anyhow, but you need to set priorities. The single level you get for 99 bucks. This is a net price, so you have to add VAT to it. It's 117.81 in Germany, but I don't even recommend the single level unless it's really all you need. I recommend our 5-level bundle, which covers A1 to C1, and that you get in 3 variations, or not variations, actually. You can pay 3 prices for it, and these prices are income based, or let's call wealth based, financial wealth. So if you have no income, or easy spoken, if you cannot afford $297, you are free to choose the yellow price. Yeah, really, if this is the case. If a company pays for your course, you do not choose that option. This is really for the people that cannot afford anything else. If you have regular income and can afford it, you pay $297. And if you are a company, or your company pays for you, or you can easily afford $495, you pay that. Because why would I charge the same price for someone in India who has to work a lot more for their money than I would charge from a US citizen, for example, that easily makes the $495 a month? Yeah. By the way, the $495 is not monthly; it's a one-time price. Yeah. Yeah. And you can also pay this in installments. The 198 is 2 installments of 99. And again, remember that this is exclusive VAT, or you pay like this. And they will be booked like on the same date that you purchase it. So you purchase one today, 1st of October, next installment is on the 1st of November, and then you're done. It's not a subscription. You don't have to cancel this. You have 30 days to ask for your money back, and then of course you will not be charged. You will even get the money back you paid. So that's of course there. And we will not require any proof of income. Though if you ask me for an invoice for your company and I see you paid $198, then yeah, I'll possibly give you an eye and give you the invoice nevertheless. It's up to you. It's your conscience whether you want to support this approach or not. But this is really trying to balance a little bit the income inequality worldwide, and it's the best I can come up with for now. Yeah. So just that you understand, we trust you. Question is, do you trust yourself? That's up to you to find out. We grant 5 years of access. That's a legal guarantee. Beyond that, I give you a personal guarantee that we will not unenroll you. Why would we? If you feel you're causing more work than you paid for, you're always free to pay more. We are not objecting more money. But I am also very conscious about where the money comes from, how hard you work for it. And I promise that I will make best use of it. Yeah. And I will also see that I reinvest most of the money you make in the company, so it becomes better and better and more people join, so that all of us can benefit from it until, yeah, or let's say for a lifetime. Yeah. That was it. I'm not sure how long it was, but you tell me. 40 minutes. So we have 15, 20, 30 minutes for Q&A. Thank you. By the way, if you Google this, especially the US citizens here, you are in for a treat. Google this phrase, wir sagen Dankeschön und auf Wiedersehen. And I say Dankeschön und auf Wiedersehen to you, but I hope you stay for the Q&A because I'm really looking forward to your questions. Thank you. Good. Let me record this Q&A. Hope you're fine with this. I'm not sure whether we'll publish it, but it's always nice. So if you don't want to be seen there, maybe turn off your video. Yeah. So you can post your questions now. Give me a second. So in the chat, thank you for holding them back. And the audio is not working. Yeah. And Ari, yeah, I can have a quick chat with you. Let's keep it short though with the chats. Yeah, let's focus on written questions. But Ari, come on, you can unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me? Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
I have a question. Why you have a separate German course besides the Smart German course?
I don't understand. What is the what do you mean by that?
Last time I checked, you have a special course dedicated for grammar, right?
As well, yeah.
Yeah. Why is it like that? Is it like in the Smart German course, the 5-level course? Don't you like focus on grammar, and the other course is more about grammar? Because for me, I want to learn the grammar, then follow the rules, not just memorizing them.
Yeah, Ari.
That's one of the questions I got.
Yeah, Ari, any special courses we have are special. So they are an add-on that you do not need, but they are beneficial in a certain situation. So the grammar course is not because we don't explain grammar. My courses explain everything you need. It's complete. It's an all-inclusive. So the grammar course is a course that's for people that want to dive deeper into the grammar. Maybe after years of learning German, they finally want to really deeply understand, why is it like this? I already do a lot of that in the courses, but Alessio, who created the course, is a beautiful mind, and he explains things in a manner that really requires your full attention. It's a course you do for pleasure, not because you do it because you need it. And it is a pleasure. You wouldn't believe how much pleasure German grammar can be. We promote these courses inside our other courses also as a way to support us, because we operate at a minimum level here, but these are really beautiful courses. We have a B1 preparation course. So if you do an exam, and it helps you to, not many schools offer a clear preparation for exams. So this course makes you familiar with everything you need to know about the exam, and saves you precious time, helps you to use everything you've learned so far more efficiently, and therefore not guarantees, but makes it more likely that you pass your exam. That's another course. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So all these courses are really helpful, but you don't need them in that sense. If you're short on money, save your money. It's fine. Yeah.
So the Smart German by itself is enough.
Absolutely.
Okay. One last question. can it be used inside a family for several, like two persons?
No. So here's the thing: if you go to a language school and you book a chair in a classroom, you don't bring your family along, right? Or you don't switch chairs. But Ari, if there's several people in the family and money is an issue, write me an email, explain the situation. We find a way to get you all on board. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
but don't share your
Thank
account. And it has also lots of other disadvantages because your progress is stored, and 5 people or 2 people have different speeds, and then it's always clicking back and forth, and it's not smarter German anymore. It gets messy, and I would love you to have the full experience. And so just reach out to me. It's all fine. We get it going.
Okay.
Yeah?
Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for the questions. One question: I don't have income because I've just moved to a different city, but my parents have income after tax a month. Would I qualify to no income category? 1,500 after tax, depending on where you live. Yeah, I leave that to you. If you feel that's justified, just go for it. Yeah, you make the decision. You know. I will not check. Yeah, unless you send me an invoice for your company, then as I said, please do. I appreciate seeing links to the evidence that all German all the time is not effective. Yeah, Bernard, you can look up, for example, Dr. Wolfgang Butzkam and take it from there. And here's a kind of enlightened, aufgeklärte you have to look it up in English, aufgeklärte Einsprachigkeit, I think. Mr. Butzkam is by today a friend of mine, which I really cherish. He's retired, he's 80 years old, but he had a big influence on my teaching, and my waking up from this German-only approach. Yeah, so many people tell me all German all the time is the best way to learn, and don't find that way. So if someone claims something, ask them for proof, like you did with me, right? So what do they base that on? It's very logical that if I don't understand what the teacher is telling me clearly, I make up my own things, yeah? And how can I learn if I don't understand? So a good teacher can teach you like this, and of course it works, but it works so painfully and so slowly. You just experience it yourself and see if this works for you and you are thrilled all the time, go for it. I can only say as a teacher, I suffered from this approach significantly, and many of my colleagues do too. It requires a highly analytical, prepared mind to set up a very good classroom that works in a German-only approach. Yeah, and again, this book will enlighten you. He writes in English as well on his blog if you Google him. Don't expect fancy design, but he's okay. Hi, Michael. I have one question, so I have to. I bought the course 1 month ago and got to A2 level. Not bad. It's okay to start reading texts or stories that are A1 level. Sure, you can also start reading A2 level because you have learned how to read. The way I teach you reading is you do the same with books. Yeah, you skim and then you look again, and then ideally you listen while you read if you have the audio to your book. Just read and see. But see how you feel while you do that. Because if you feel frustrated because you don't understand much, then either change your mindset and say, I just read and I'm fine with whatever I understand, or you wait a little bit more until you have enough vocabulary. Yeah. Yeah, sure. And read things that you are interested in, that keep your attention. Yeah. Initially, that might not. You don't have to read high literature, right? So it's okay. But always see to keep the balance between formal studies and free studies, which is reading and watching things. Yeah. I love the course so far. That's lovely to hear. I also run a lot and would love to make most of the time. Currently listening to Pimsleur, which is very repetitive. Is there anything else you recommend? I recommend podcasts and maybe use your jogging time for passive listening, which can be a bit boring if you expect to understand things. Passive listening means you listen to stuff that you don't necessarily understand, but your brain gets exposed to German. Yeah. And that is very helpful. Over time, you will be able to better distinguish words from each other, and that helps you to process the audio information faster. My teammate just said we should make the audio of the courses available. That's actually a thought I had, because Teachable now allows digital downloads, which we actually might use for this purpose. I was a bit against it because people otherwise prepare a lot of the audio, which might take away a little bit of the efficiency, but I think we can do that and you can listen to the audio while you're running. But in general, I recommend you listen to maybe podcasts or maybe talks by someone in German if you know who talks about things you are interested in. You can also find quite some inspiration in the community. If you have a free trial, you have access to it, and there is a channel that says books, audio, videos, and there's a lot of stuff already that students put in there, and me too. So maybe you find something that works for you. Otherwise, maybe get some A1 audio stuff and just listen to it. Yeah, you don't need to, but cannot harm. If you enjoy it, why not make use of the time? I listen to Alan Watts all the time when I run, and that's just enlightening, beautiful. Pimsleur I did also for a while, but also they speak a lot of English in between, so they explain things. It's a bit so maybe listen to something that has a certain flow. Yeah. Give me a second. Let me turn off my. So I'm very involved in several projects at this time. Should I wait until my schedule is freer before enrolling? How much time per day is the minimum to process in your course? It depends a little bit on you. You can see the trial and see how it flows for you. I would say the minimum time is half an hour, at least 3 days a week. I'm not sure whether you get far with 2 times a week, but you can try and see how it goes. As I said, you have a free trial, you have 30 days to try and see whether it works for you. It's my best recommendation, because your situation is individual, right? And if you feel that this fits well into your other projects, as long as they are not language learning projects, give it a shot. And you know, there's basically no limit to how much you can do every day, but you need roughly 3 hours per lesson, and it's 50 lessons, so you can do a little bit of math. And if you do only 1 hour a day, it takes you 3 weeks for a lesson, and that's an eternal project, but it still might be enjoyable. And there's certain things in my courses that are unique that you might deeply enjoy despite the slow progress. So just try, you'll be fine. I've already done a Sprachdiplom 2 in 2017 and got B2 for one part of the C1 exam and C1 in all other areas. I'm sorry, Lilo, I didn't take your hands up. I saw that, but you put them down, right? Been doing B2 intensive courses, and people have said I'm not always good enough. I'm stuck for motivation and what to do now. Well, Lilo, I would say you're a perfect case for my new coaching program. I think you should copy this message and send me an email via the homepage and take a look at it. I would like to look into this deeper. Yeah, what is meant by not good enough, and what are these people? And I need to hear you speak. I need to understand that. And in this short time here, I cannot do that. Yeah, just reach out to me. One more technical thing. When I go to log in on the website, it takes me to the About Me page. Just to mention, no problem at all. It's not an issue. Well, it's definitely an issue. Kay, can you take note of this? This is weird. But you, Ilya, can you send us the URL, how you actually try to get to the homepage? Because we haven't seen this. So we always need to know where you come from. Yeah, and what device you use and what operating system. Is there any way to see TV programs like Formula One in German language? I don't know. I really don't know. Because it's the last thing I'm interested in. I've never looked for it, I've never heard for it. But if you look up F1 in German, Google might actually be surprising you. Joby, I just said where you can find some recommendations, right? So there's plenty of these things. I recommend watching and listening to stuff that you are interested in already in your mother tongue. Don't just watch something because it's in German. It might carry you along for a while, but long term it might bore you. Depends on how much you enjoy just understanding the language. Yeah, then you can watch whatever, Peppa Pig or Dora the Explorer, or you watch Harry Potter, or whatever it is. No, but I have a couple of recommendations in the community, and it clearly says videos, podcasts, and so on. Coffee break German, yeah, always comes up. I started learning at the beginning of 18 and made fast progress through A to B1. Now I'm working B2. I feel that I'm stuck walking through the mud. Welcome to B2, James. That's a general experience, not only with Smarter German. I know you work with our course, right? And that's really, it's just the distance between B1 and B2 is immense. And B2 is a big challenge on your memory because you have to remember many new words, more abstract words. You need to get the concept and then use them. So it's a bit of a challenge, but give me a second. How do you recommend that learners enjoy the journey and keep making steady progress even when the destination is still a long way? So at that level, good point is to maybe not focus on progress, even though it's of course always good to keep an eye on it, yeah, because otherwise you might be doing something wrong. So it might be interesting to see what's your learning routine, how are you working. So if you share that with me in detail, what your day looks like or your week, you just share that in the community. I can give you more elaborate feedback on that. I can see whether it's a problem of your routine, inclusive vocabulary training, inclusive everything you do, extra curriculum, like in real life, yeah. So, and it's also not that you always have to enjoy what you're doing, but there should be a little bit of more weight on the joy of things. Of course, there needs to be enough joy for you to get through the difficult parts. Unfortunately, everything that is enjoyable also comes with a part of that's not enjoyable. Yeah. If you ever had a relationship, I think you know what I mean. Yeah. A relationship that's always enjoyable, I get skeptical about. There might be some, but learn from the best if you meet them. Yeah. Dark on Netflix, yeah, for example. But Dark is a very complex plot to follow. So I'm not sure whether it's the best to learn German. My favorite series is here, Frederick and Pickledy. Look them up, Frederick and Pickledy. I love that. Mabubua. Hello, I'm having issues identifying gaps in my German knowledge. I have taken online placement tests which normally place me between A2, B1. General comprehension is good enough to travel and communicate with my family. My writing and higher level of speaking is lacking. I tried attending online A1-2 classroom, found it too easy, but still found gaps in my basic grammar and vocabulary. How can I make further progress? I've tried your free lessons A1, B1. So I would need a little bit more input on how you felt about the free lessons for my B1 course, for example. Well, if you say you have problems realizing what are your gaps, but you actually say you find gaps in your basic grammar and vocabulary. So if you know what the gaps are, share them with me. I tell you where to find help. We will soon have a grammar tool which allows you to quickly look up any topic, no matter what level you've purchased. That takes another 2 weeks, I fear, but after that you have it in the lower right corner where the little fluffy monster is. And then you can look up anything if you know at least a bit of what it's called. Otherwise you ask me. Grammar is not fixed by attending a classroom or doing a full course. That's really by working through grammar. If you really want to, the question is, what do you really want? So is it for speaking or higher level of speaking? So if you are at B1 level, that's not a higher level of speaking to begin with. Higher level of speaking, as I said in the presentation, starts at the end of B2, yeah, or mid-end B2. That's a level where you feel okay with speaking. You're actually speaking German. B1 is really getting by, hands and feet communication, less hands and feet, but still, it's a basic level. Yeah? And the question is really, have you the problems you have come from how you have practiced? So it's important to know how you have practiced to correct this process of practicing. So we have a technique in our course called the preaching. Preaching internalizes grammar knowledge in a way that you don't have to think of the grammar when you speak. So you can easily say, ich sehe einen kleinen Baum. You don't have to think, oh, it's accusative, it's masculine. You just remember intuitively Baum was a super tree. So, and therefore I have to say einen kleinen. And this just happens instantly. And if you come and start thinking of what is this, what gender, what case, and what sentence order, you get lost. And then your brain says, fuck that, and just puts any ending there, and you're still understood. You know? So you need to analyze how have you been working, where does the problem originate from? And so you need to share your progress, your learning routine with me as well. Yeah? What things can you recommend to improve the German language? Projekte, I don't know what that means. There's many things I can recommend to simplify the German language, but that's out of my control, and therefore I will not do that. But maybe you mean to improve your German language. That's easy, you just work with Smarter German. Just sign up for the free trial, see whether it works for you, and take a look at that. Proper working on your language, plus do what you love in German at one point, as much as you can, progressively more and more. And that combination of formal study and informal exposure and practice, that will make your day, I'm sure. Yeah, I think that's what you meant, I hope, at least. Yeah, because I have an article on how to improve the German language. I wrote it as an April Fool's. It's a lovely article. I'm not sure what it's called. On my blog somewhere, enter April Fool's, you will find it. Yeah. Any books, apps, courses besides yours worth trying, diversify? Please, well, books, you can read anything you enjoy. I recommend that. Apps, I don't recommend other than, no, actually I don't recommend any other app other than my own apps, which I tell you when to use in my course. I have 2 apps dealing with articles and irregular verbs. Language courses next to mine, I don't recommend. You don't need to, and they usually are rather a distraction than beneficial, unless you have a very good reason why you enjoy doing Duolingo next to Smarter German, but I find them not worth the time. And I've tried them all, and I'm not alone with this. You know, it's fiddling around and playing around, and if you couldn't study German in the same time, sure, then just play along. But you don't need any other course. So it's the same. If you have 2 teachers and they say different things or work differently, it might add up, or it might just confuse you. I don't recommend that, because I simply think they don't add much to your work with Smarter German, especially the apps. Apps, they're all well meant, but we have a saying, well meant is often the opposite of well done. So they might look nice and tell you that they have the solution to the biggest problem you have, but I still wait for that app that actually fulfills the promise. Yeah. But if you find something that you like, share it with me, and please always share with me why you like it, because then I can tell you why I don't like it. But I might also take inspiration from it and see what I can use of your shared knowledge for my other apps and my course. Yeah. So diversity is best brought on by really doing a real life thing next to my course. And if you need support with that, share it in the community. Yeah. In speaking training included in your course, how does it work? It is absolutely included in my work, and you can see in the free trial how it works. I give you just 2-3 rough ideas. So one technique is called the preaching. First of all, speaking requires listening. The better you hear, the better you listen, the better you will be at speaking. So there's focus on listening in my course, but there's also focus on speaking. So you will practice so-called pattern drills. You will really have little dialogues with yourself, basically a monologue, but you pretend to be 2 people. And those will help you to internalize grammatical structures. And that will help you later on process information faster, speak faster, and not worry too much, oh, how do I say this? But you have more capacity to listen to what the other person wants. Later on, that's enough for A1, A2, and end of A2, if not early B1, we have another technique where you speak a bit more freely, but you prepare your speaking, and you always get feedback on what you say, so that you can improve on the things that come more difficult over your tongue. And this is unique and very efficient, very beautiful. And we are working on a tool currently, which possibly takes another month, if not 2, that will make this process even more enjoyable and add a spoken component to it. There will be hopefully a voice that asks you a question, for example, siehst du die weiße Tasse? And all you have to do then is just answer, nein, ich sehe die weiße Tasse nicht. And then the dialogue goes on and on a little bit. So this way you have a little interaction. That's the aim. And that's more than enough for until B1. Yeah, and then B1 there is more freestyle. Yeah, and you always get feedback. That's the important thing. Otherwise, you're just talking, and just talking is you might feel you're fluent, but you might be fluent in rubbish German, and that's not the aim of anything we do. Yeah, fluency is one thing, but you actually want to be fluent and correct and correct in my world means 80% correct. It's good enough. Never be perfect. Hope you're doing well. I can almost complete a lesson in almost 75 to 80 minutes, while others take up to 3 hours. Am I going too fast? Do you recommend me to slow down? Zahid, just share how long every step takes. You share that in the community with me, and I'll let you know where you possibly are too fast. Depending on where you are in the course, 90 minutes or 80 minutes are maybe okay, but you might indeed skip something or be too fast, or maybe you are at a level that is below your actual level. So for that, I need to see how much time you spend where and where you are in the course. Yeah, and I help you in the community. And maybe it's just natural for you, but I need to see this. Yeah. I cut a couple of graded readers before I've enrolled in the course. I've used them to extract words, sentences into Anki, and I had a feeling that I'm obtaining vocabulary. I also enjoyed reading them. What's your take on this approach? Should I do it in parallel with the course, or the course enough to improve my vocabulary? Adnan, if you enjoy reading them, I'm not against anything that causes you joy. I'm not sure whether you have to extract the words and sentences into Anki, but if that doesn't take too much time, by all means, go for it. Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. You can also just read them and see and highlight the words, and read the book again in a month and see whether of the highlighted words, more of them are clear now. There's lots of vocabulary in my courses. I think it's 1,200 words in A1, and then another 1,200 there and there, and overall you learn enough. But enjoy just to do that. You know, if you use Anki and my vocabulary tool, you might just get a little bit overworked with all this stuff. But if you have this sorted out for yourself, continue. I use Opera. When I open smartergerman.com, I hover over the login button. I see down left that the link goes about me page. I see down left that the link goes to the login button. And when I click on login, it takes me there. Then I can go to login and click on it. Interesting. Yeah, thank you for that. I actually copy this. Okay, thank you. Can you please allow offline download options for Android users? Joy, I'm not sure what you mean for offline download. I can only allow the download of certain audio files and the videos. I don't see any benefit necessarily in it, because then the whole idea of Smarter German is that everything is structured and you don't have to worry about when to watch what and to search for things. When you download things, all you have is a big folder of videos, and then you have to sort them and you have to look them in the right order, watch them in the right order, and same with the audio. So I will provide the audio in a way that is maybe in one piece. You can listen to the whole audio in one file or something like that. I can do that, but the course itself cannot be downloaded. It's a technical issue. It's not in my hands. The Teachable app, unfortunately, is crap, and they don't take care of it anymore. That allowed downloading parts of the course, but it is absolutely, it's an abomination. It's don't even think about it. So I cannot do that, and I also cannot do it specifically for Android users. If I do it for everyone. Yeah. So you have to let me know, maybe, Joy, what this is really about. What is it you really try to achieve with this? And then I can give you a more precise answer. But this is what the state of the affair is at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm using vocabulary tool on Smarter German. Is it enough, or is it better to use Anki by filtering much more difficult words? It's enough. Don't use other tools. Vocabulary training is only one part, and it's also very boring if you do it with an app. Even with our vocab tool, which we will optimize, we are actually optimizing until the end of the year. Best vocabulary is best learned through repetition within context, which is what you do with my course. But it's good support to do to continue with the course with the vocabulary tool. Sorry. Yeah. If the vocabulary tool is not working for you, just reach out to me and we take a look at it. Worst case, you work with Anki, but the Smarter German, it's important that you study vocabulary that is part of your course. Otherwise, you learn random words that you possibly will use much, much later, and stuff that is not relevant for now, your brain always puts aside. So you invest a bit more time in learning all these things, which you might forget again because they are just not practical. That's why our vocab tool takes care of the fact that you learn words that are relevant and they are time sensitive. So your brain wants to remember them. Yeah. But our vocab tool at the moment, I'm improving it significantly because I found There's a much simpler and much more efficient way of doing that. It's doing a good job so far, from what I can see, but I hope that by the end of the year we have a pimped version of it. And by pimped, I don't mean more fancy or more complicated, much simpler. My aim is always to simplify by maintaining the efficiency. TV programs in German language. If there's okay, some tips, that's good. Sometimes I'm out of internet, so offline download. Okay, I understand. Yeah, and maybe when you're offline, there is other things you can do, Joy. Maybe you get indeed a graded reader, which is for your level, A1, A2, B1. And then you can read that offline, and often they come with audio. If you need a recommendation, I think there's something in my community. Andre Klein creates interesting readers. I'll soon offer a couple of more books, but I still have to make audio recordings. So this is my suggestion for those times that you're offline. Do other stuff other than the learning. The course doesn't require much of internet, right? But maybe your browser stores a few pages in the cache. You have to see whether that works. So reading should be possible most of the time. Yeah, but I understand. But the technical world is not interested in people that have a lack of internet, unfortunately. I'm not creating the platform. I'm just really using it and putting it to its limit. So if they ever offer that, I'm happy to let you know. Yeah. Is it okay if I use Bubble together with Smarter German? Well, okay is everything. It's up to you whether you want to do it and whether it's beneficial for you. If you enjoy Bubble and it gives you something, do. The thing is, you need you have limited time, right? So you need to see how much time you want to spend on what. Bubble is a little bit playful, and I understand its approach or its appeal. And if you travel and have a nice app that you can play with, sure, do that. Smarter German requires a bit more attention and a more steady approach to learning. Yeah, it's really the same as going to a classroom in a way, just more flexible, more affordable. So give it a try and see. Always feel into it. Does this really help me? And the same with my course, right? So if you feel my course doesn't help you, by all means, reach out to me and let me know what you're missing, and we look into it together. But always ask yourself, what am I doing here? Is this really good for me? Does it really feel good? And if it doesn't, then try to find out why not. Because if you know what doesn't work in this app, for example, then you will recognize a good app much more easily later on. Yeah, or you will avoid other apps that work the same way. So always analyze your mistakes. And if you need help with this, I'm happy to do that. Yeah. Good. That was quite a lot of lovely questions. Thank you for that. And I think for today, that's more than enough. So thank you all. It was quite a big crowd. Really appreciate that, and I enjoy this. Any feedback you have, you can always write me an email or in the community if you're already there. And you're always welcome to join me on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Berlin time. Same link as this one. Just save it somewhere and join. It's the Q&A. It takes between half an hour and an hour, but you can come and go as you please. Yeah, don't have to sit through it to the end if you have better things to do. Yeah, good. Shukran. Yeah, gerne. Have a lovely evening, and above all, enjoy your German learning overall. And yeah, lots of German to you. Yeah, take care.